Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got an interesting show for you. Yeah, they're talking about Clemson leaving the ACC, and they're talking about it being inevitable. So I don't know about all that, but maybe it is. I know they want to leave. Now, this is all over social media. It's actually a report that came out, and I'll show it to you. But there's talk that they have found a way out of the grant of rights.
The big news.
News? What news?
And this is a report by Vincent Pensabini out of Sportskeeda. And it says, Clemson leaving ACC inevitable as school reportedly finds way to break the $120 million plus grant of rights for 2025 move to the SEC. Conference alignment takes a wild turn. Now, saying conference alignment takes a wild turn, how about the Pac-12? It disappeared overnight. It was crazy. So this wouldn't be all that strange anymore. In the past, I would have looked at this and I would have just said, what a bunch of crap. Not anymore. Not at all. In the story, it says Clemson Tigers may have found a way to leave the ACC conference and get out of the massive grant of rights deal for the ACC, causing another massive shift in conference realignment. It says, according to Sports Illustrated, the fee for a team to leave the conference is $120 million, and the majority of attorneys believe the grant of rights was impossible to get out of, which meant even if you paid the $120 million, they still own the rights all the way up until, I believe it's 2036. But now they're talking they may have found a way out. And Mark Ryan says, here it is, stay very tuned. A Clemson senior administrator said when asked how soon a Clemson ACC departure could be announced, said this will cause a massive shift in college football because, look, if they do find a way out of the ACC, there's going to be a crescendo that falls from that. North Carolina will want out. FSU for sure will want out. And I could see both Clemson and FSU winding up in the SEC, which is going to tick off Florida fans like crazy. But I don't think they could block it. The other teams that might wind up, Miami, I almost feel like Miami would wind up with the Big Ten, which is about the Big 20 by now. But I don't know. They could wind up in the SEC as well. It's hard to say how this is all going to play out. We might wind up with 3 conferences by 2025, which would be SEC, Big Ten. So that would really throw a monkey wrench into the playoff because right now they've got it set up to have 6 conference champions and then 6 at large. And, of course, the Pac-12 is gone. So how do you play through that? And it says Clemson leaving is a massive sign the ACC is heading in a similar direction as the Pac-12. They have a media rights deal. There it is, 2036 with ESPN. But the company has a clause in the deal that if the conference drops below 15 teams, it can be renegotiated. And the ACC, each team gets $39 million, which is much less than the SEC or the Big Ten. And if the Tigers leave, that number could drop because the Tigers are a big draw. It says that ACC, as of 2024, is at 17 teams, has added Stanford and California Golden Bears and SMU Mustangs. And they obviously added that in as an insurance policy in case something like this happened, I'm assuming. It says if Clemson leaves, it will make the conference a seemingly cheaper product as the top-tier teams are leaving for greener pastures. This really puts the ball in the court of the ACC. It is likely that Commissioner Jim Phillips is going to have a hard time retaining teams once a way out has been established.
Now here at The Rock, we have 2 basic rules. The first rule is obey all rules.
I absolutely think that's what's going to happen if they actually have found a way out. I'm not convinced of that because my understanding that grant of rights is pretty tough to get out of, but it's not impossible. If it's written down on a piece of paper, it doesn't mean it can't. Doesn't mean some smart lawyer can't figure a way out of it. And it says the Clemson Tigers have figured a way out. So what is to stop the Florida State Seminoles, North Carolina Tar Heels, et cetera, to leave for more money, which they would get more money in the SEC or the Big Ten. It says this is the fear of the conference as it will constantly need to be looking for expansion teams, thus decreasing the level of comfort for compelling action. Definitely not a good look for the conference as the other Power 5 conferences are going to look to poach programs as well. So this is huge news. I mean, I'm telling you, you think the Pac-12 was a mess. This could be even bigger because these are teams that are around us, that near us, and it would have a huge impact on the SEC. All we've had is 2 teams coming, not even from the Pac-12, which was Texas, Oklahoma. We might end up with 3 or 4 teams pretty quickly by 2025, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised. I would think, geez, it could be North Carolina, it could be Virginia, which would be great basketball schools, by the way. And then, of course, FSU, Clemson, Miami are definite possibilities. That'd be really good for football. And I don't think the SEC wants the Big Ten down in Florida. So they're going to probably take both those teams, FSU and Miami. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. It could get messy real quick. Sounds like we'll know pretty soon. And social media has erupted. It said, Clemson Wire put out here, says, talks about the reaction to the ACC rumors. Barstool Clemson says, if I had to put my money on it, it's going to be the SEC. Says, wouldn't mind either. Anything's better than the ACC. October, I guess that means 10th, or is that 16th? Says, stay very tuned. Sooner rather than later, will it be a Big Ten, SEC? Clemson found a way out of the grant of rights. And again, we haven't seen how they're going to do it. It says there's no secret whatsoever that there are 7, likely several more ACC teams who want out sooner rather than later, and now several very solid SEC sources telling us FSU, Clemson, UNC, and Virginia could be a block of 4 who leave together for either the SEC or the Big Ten. That's very interesting. It says Clemson likely to announce their departure from the ACC in October is what I was told a few minutes ago. It says Big Ten information. It says I screen captured the important part from the Post and Courier article from this morning about Clemson and other ACC schools possibly leaving. It says while most Clemson administrators and fans prefer a move to the SEC, the Big Ten is a possibility. It says it might go like this. The Big Ten gets serious about adding a southern tier led by North Carolina, the top non-Notre Dame prize from both the Big Ten and SEC, also including Clemson, Florida State, and perhaps Georgia Tech and or Miami. The SEC counter, wanting North Carolina primarily and seeking to block such a major Big Ten move into its footprint. It says SEC officials this week again declined to talk about specific schools. Greg Sankey wants to wait, obviously, but he may be pressed into duty on this. It says Greg Pfluger is saying FSU, NC, and Clemson are leaving the ACC, possibly join the SEC. He was accurate on the Pac-12 implosion, so he has merit. Interesting. Chris Clegg says the NCAA is going to implode with Clemson, FSU, and other big schools set to leave the ACC. Possibility SEC and Big Ten could create something of their own without the NCAA. Jeez. So it sounds like we'll be finding out something in October about this, which I find very interesting. It's hard not to watch this. It could get real squirrely fast, especially if they make an announcement. Well, you're talking about a lawsuit. I would think that's going to take a while to go through the courts, but I don't know. But this is worth keeping up with for sure, because this could have a major impact on the SEC, which is the conference I care about. All right, folks, I did want to cover this story, and it's a heck of a story, and I'm going to keep my ear to the ground on this, especially social media, et cetera. It sounds like there could be an announcement at some point. Now, we'll see. It could be all smoke and mirrors, but I know there's been a ton of talk about them wanting out, and we thought the Pac-12 would be there forever. It was there for 100 years. It's gone. So this could happen. Anybody that thinks it couldn't, just look at the Pac-12. Anyway, we got a big game against South Carolina tomorrow night at 7:30. I'm sure I'll do a show prior to that and talk about it some more. But I wanted to cover this because it's such a huge story and it will impact our SEC and my Vols. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. And it lets me know to continue to cover all these types of stories, the SEC, and what might impact us. And if you've not subscribed, it's on your right, my left. Just hit that little button. I would appreciate it. It costs you nothing, and it helps me out. Just boop, that's all you got to do. And right over here's the most recent video that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.